Dream Team, it's your boy D Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with 7 things they don't tell you before moving to Australia. Before we dive into these 7 things, y'all know I need y'all to smash that subscribe button, ring notification bell, get a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. You guys got a favorite video suggestion, you can subscribe to Patreon or drop it in the comment section. What we got?
Australia is probably one of the most misunderstood places in the world. Do you ride around on kangaroos? Sure mate, all the time. Is the weather always hot? Of course. We're having a bushfire right now. Are you all descended from convicts? You're absolutely right. And Australia's national sport, AFL, originally started as a pastime where people would try and rob each other on the street, just for fun. They just added a ball. F***ing idiots. G'day guys, my name's Ross and I moved to Australia with my family during a global pandemic. When we moved to Australia, we had no friends living here and hardly any friends that we could ask. Sounds rather dramatic. And so to help any of you who are thinking of braving it to the land down under, or just some nosy gits who are wondering if this whinging pom is going to say something negative about this beautiful country, then these are my 7 things that they don't tell you before you move to Australia. When you first tell your friends and family that you want to move to Australia, you'll first get the initial shock because of how far away it is and how isolated you're going to be, how much you're going to miss everyone else and how different your life is going to be. Did they ever wonder whether those might really be the reasons why you're moving in the first place? The reality is,
I feel you on that. I definitely, sometimes I love my family to pieces, but sometimes I be like, I need to sneak away and isolate myself. You know what? Nah, but I definitely understand that perspective.
ever wonder whether those might really be the reasons why you're moving in the first place? The reality is that they're probably a bit right. Australia is a very different country than anywhere else, but for lots of different reasons. And it's that variety that means that sometimes you're going to be a bit better and others not so great. Wherever you're coming from, it's probably where you don't want to be right now. But there are still probably some really good reasons to stay. Except maybe like the Ukraine. It's not their fault. And when the bad days in Australia happen, and believe me, there aren't that many, and they coincide with the days that you remember the good things about your home country, you'll feel torn as to whether you've made the right decision. Homesickness comes and goes. I guess time will only tell whether you end up having more homesick days or more home-loving days of your new home in Australia. I personally have had no days where I'd rather be back in the UK. I have some days of wanting to revisit and plenty of wanting to see people who live there. But then I remember that planes exist and they work both ways, so I'm fine again. I could never live back in the UK. They don't pay enough. As a young person living in Australia with a drinking culture such as ours, you will wonder how adults get so socially inebriated at such an affordable cost. Well, it isn't thanks to our vast selection of pre-mixed drinks, or even the love of cheap cider. The answer, my friends, is the old-fashioned good time in a bag, goon. But the thing is, it's actually alright. Well, some of it. And I guess in moderation. While the innocuous price tag will immediately pique your interest, you then start scanning the shelves to find out that they actually have some proper flavours, other than dry white or simply red.
That's a lot cheaper than, because I've seen like videos with Australian alcohol, like they talk about like getting a case of beer and stuff and it'd be like ridiculously expensive. That's very affordable alcohol, and they get paid more, so it's like that's even better. So that's dope. I thought all the Australian alcohol was just expensive.
Have some proper flavours other than dry white or simply red. That would actually be quite a good wine band crossover. Or what about red wine? Now I must advise that you do drink in moderation. After all, 4 litres of anything is going to leave you a little bit dusty. But for something to sit in your fridge or slowly fermenting on your countertop, I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. And you shouldn't too. It's un-Australian to look down on someone else's drinking choices. After all, it's not Bundy. That's a joke. I actually do love some sugarcane champagne. Australians are friendly, whether it's genuine or not. Heck, if even I can get invited to an Australian's house with my social skills, then you're definitely in with a chance. Don't fall into the social par that many British people or even non-Australians do. When you're invited round to someone else's house, make sure you bring a plate. Not an actual plate like some kind of food gorging monster waiting to be fed by your new unsuspecting hosts. Like as in, bring a plate of food to share with your new friends. Coming from the UK, it's sometimes felt that if you invited someone to your house, then you were expected to feed, water, and basically wait on them hand and foot until they were full and satisfied, and you end up picking up the tab for whatever they've eaten and drunk. Even booze. No wonder why people didn't invite others round. In Australia, you enjoy spending time with one another, just not paying for your gluttony. So if you want something in particular, then bring it along with you. You won't starve with what's being provided, but don't expect your host to become your Saturday Arvo slave, feeding you peeled grapes while you simply lounge around. And if you want to get pissed, then bring it yourself. Alcohol is expensive in Australia. When you've lived in a country that spends half the year in some kind of twilight level of permafrost darkness, you'll realise that it's sometimes difficult to watch what you eat, and you normally end up over the cooler months becoming festively plump. This also normally coincides with the midwinter festival of Christmas, where it's quite common to eat whole tubes of Twiglets or a whole tub of celebrations, but only the good ones, like leave the crap ones for someone else. Being in Australia,
the celebrations is like the different, like the candy, but different chocolate candies, I believe. I think I saw Evan Ettinger, a UK YouTuber, do a reaction with him, but I definitely understand it being hard to watch what you eat. Just thinking about I saw that Macca's. That Macca's burger on the screen, and it just made me want to run to McDonald's real quick. But I'm not. I'm not going to. But I want to.
Or a whole tub of celebrations, but only the good ones, like leave the crap ones for someone else. Being in Australia lends itself to being more healthy. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Bullshit, Ross. I see plenty of unhealthy people about, but hear me out. Number one, as already mentioned, cigarettes, alcohol, or whatever you're into, vices that are slowly designed to kill you are more expensive. The weather. It actually helps you to get out and enjoy life more. Move your body like it was designed to do. A little bit of vitamin D in warmer weather might also help you to feel less hungry. Or if it makes you more prone to taking your shirt off, then you might feel a little bit more compelled to showing off what's underneath in a bit of a better light. In Australia, I've seen more adverts for wellness this, retreat that. Live like this to cleanse your mind, body and soul. And while I'm not commenting on the credibility of living this kind of lifestyle, I think it's better to have a mindset of looking after your body rubbing off on you, rather than one where it's more acceptable to eat shit and live like a fat slob. Australia is a big country. We know that already, so you'll need a vehicle to help you. When you look around, you see a range of cars, all shapes and sizes and ages, and you think to yourself, I must be able to pick up a cheap car for a few $1,000s. Wrong. Cars are expensive in Australia. Very expensive. I mean, for what they are. Spending a few $1,000s on what someone else claims is a good runner might end up with you buying an expensive box of bolts on wheels that needs constant fixing. But then I guess Australians do love a punt. So maybe that extends from the lottery and the pokies to buying whatever cheap piece of crap car they want next. Maybe it's the fact that cars aren't made here anymore. So like a civilized, pre-dystopian version of Mad Max, everyone is just fighting over the few cars that they have left until something new gets imported. When you move to Australia,
I feel like, but also I feel like in America you can spend a couple $1,000 on what you thought was going to be a decent car instead of a box of bolts on wheels. So I feel like that could go for a couple different countries. But you also can get cheap cars and they actually be very reliable. So I guess you just gotta get them to show you the Carfax. Keep it going.
Fighting over the few cars that they have left until something new gets imported. When you move to Australia, if you've never or only briefly been here before, you'll quickly realise that apart from what you've seen over-glamorised on TV or film, you don't know a lot about where to actually live. Sure, you can live in Bondi, perhaps somewhere within walking distance of the Opera House. I hear Ramsay Street's pretty empty right now. Like most of the 25 million or so living in Australia, you're probably going to end up in one of the endless urban sprawls of one of the 5 major cities. Yes, there are better places than others. No, not all of them are the same. And just because it's a nice part doesn't mean there aren't crap bits too. Crime happens everywhere, but probably a bit less than where you're coming from. I had never been to Brisbane before we moved here, but we've done alright. Choosing where to live will make you want to evaluate what you want in life. This is a fresh start, so think long and hard about what you want your new life and your new home to have. Long and hard. Once you have a list of what's important to you, then put that list into order of importance. And while you might not get everything on your list, after all, with a budget, not everywhere is perfect, chances are you'll at least find somewhere that you're really happy to call home. Set your expectations of what you want from the get-go and enjoy looking across this beautiful country for what it has to offer. And there's a lot, and you'll find that most of it probably already lives at the top of your list. Now, this is probably the most important one, because there's nothing more offensive than holding Australians to account with false, outdated stereotypes, especially ones that do nothing to better the opinion that Australia is a fantastic place to live. In other words, Australian beer is it. Well, most of it isn't. And Foster's definitely isn't a thing. I have never seen it served in pubs, or bottle-os, or advertised on TV. I can only assume that it was created by some marketing guru in the 80s to advertise the culturally outdated idea of a manly Australia. Of course,
I was gonna say, because I feel like I didn't think Foster's was the beer of Australia anyway, because I don't know what the beer of Australia is. I don't know what to be drinking. But in so many of these Australian YouTube videos, it's like they have a reputation for Foster's being the beer that they drink over there, but all of them are like, no, like, we do not drink that crap. I don't know where it came from, but we don't drink Foster's. So y'all got that reputation for like different actors or different ads, or how did that, like, this stuff?
To advertise the culturally outdated idea of a manly Australia. Of course, Australia's manly, but it's more than that. Therefore, falsely encouraging men abroad who couldn't actually get here to become real men at home in their living rooms, sipping on the amber nectar and trying not to think, what kind of piss is this? But that's the point, really. Everyone from all over the world has these preconceived ideas of what Australia actually is. Whether they're good or bad, how true are most of them? Well, you have to really experience them to find out. Don't miss out on an opportunity because someone else told you something that you didn't like. If you've got that curious hunger about something, then the only way to satiate it is to take a bite, not listen to what somebody else tells you it tastes like. Australia isn't perfect, but it's still a pretty cool place to live. But then you probably already knew that. I was pretty naive to what Australia had to offer before I moved here. I had only been a couple of times before, and I'd never actually visited Brisbane before I decided to live here. What was I thinking? Do you have on rose-tinted glasses of what it's like to live in Australia? Well, watch this video to see what I've learned after living here for 2 years. See ya.
No, that was definitely a good video. Australia definitely just seems like a dope place. Australia has dope people, dope place. But of course, coming over there from somewhere else, you are going to find a lot of unexpected things. There's going to be a lot of differences between your country, that country, and it is very far away from here for sure, but from almost everywhere. Almost. I'm not saying from everywhere, but almost everywhere. It's very far. That's all we got. You guys got a favorite video suggestion, you can subscribe to Patreon and drop it in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel, ring notification bell, get a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. It's your boy Neal. Out.